we're creating that kind of opportunity for people. Like, you built this business to this point, and now you sell it to this guy and you can go buy something way bigger. It's like you already learned the mechanics of how to operate a business. Now go do it on a bigger scale. Like, providing that opportunity is just unbelievably awesome in my mind.
Welcome, everyone, to the Managed to Exit podcast. You've got myself, Aaron McElhiney, here with Hunter Goodall, and we are talking all things PM business acquisitions, and we're going to do a 2025 recap today. So thanks for joining.
All right.
All right, we got to do it. 2025 is over. It's time to be transparent with our numbers, as we said.
Face the music.
Give me like a quick little summary, Hunter. Emotionally, how are you doing? 2025, also a record year, but how are you feeling?
Okay, so the goal, like the quota was, hey, we got to do what, 13.6 million. And then it all started with the question of like, what if we go for 20? Like, I'd rather fall short of 20 than like, what if we fall short of 13? Let's go for 20. And so we've had it in our minds for the whole year. Like at the beginning of the year, we were like, I don't even know if that's possible, right? And then by Q3, we were like, oh crap, we're going to hit it. And then right at the end of the year, we had what, 6 or 7 deals that had to push to New Year's to January. So we ended up hitting 18 million. So while it is a win because we way overshot the original goal, I'm still kind of like, oh, we were dangerously close. We were so close to hitting that 20 million, and I wanted that number so bad. So I'm a little bit like, dang it. But at the same time, it's like I can't really be too upset because 18 is still a solid year.
It's still a great year. Yeah, like I just look back at that and realize, we started thinking bigger this last year and realizing our opportunity in the space. Like there's a lot of property management businesses out there. Why are we only doing 13 million a year? We pushed it to say, hey, let's hit 20. Like let's set a stretch goal, something that feels, uncomfortable, unreachable, and then just go after it. And so I think even though we closed at 18, we didn't hit our stretch goal, but we are leaning into Q1 of this year with 7 million under contract to close in the next 2 months. So, I mean,
awesome.
That's a win, man. That's a win. Crazy, right? But I don't know if that would have been there had we not set our stretch goal to 20 mil. Like it made me think more about that. Would we have had that much for Q1 if we just stopped really going after that stretch goal? And I think that's what is going to make 26 probably such a good year.
Quick shout out to our homie, Dr. Ben Hardy. We read his book, 10X is easier than 2X. And that was what we were like, all right, 20 seems impossible. Can we go for it? And like, man, we got dangerously close. But yeah, it's totally set up our 2026. And now we're like, well, we didn't quite hit 20, but let's go for 50. Like, let's set some impossible goal and figure out how to make it happen.
That number, I had to think, I said it a few times in my head when you brought up 50 mil and we started talking about 75 million, 100 million. We're like, what does it take to do 50 million in 2026? And I didn't get scared about it I know I should be uncomfortable with a goal that high, but I actually got just really excited about it because I know the opportunity that's out there for us, if we just keep building the way we're building. But, one thing we should do though, we've already kind of talked through a lot of 2026 planning, like you and I, but I think we should dive back into 2025, talk about, how many deals we actually closed, how many, what was the biggest deal, the smallest deal, and just give people kind of a view into the background here, like what we're doing every day. But let's do it. You want to go through some of those metrics right now and just dive into 25?
Yeah. So just to clarify, like we have a really interesting model where we can do a lot of deals because at the end of the day, it's not Aaron and I buying these businesses. It's actually our local franchisee who's buying this business. It's a local operator who's already in the space running a property management business. And we have 500 of those across the country. And that's why we're able to do so many deals. But it's like, there were so many property management companies out there. It's a very fragmented space. So it's like there's a ton of opportunity for acquisitions in the property management space. So last year, how many deals did we end up doing? It
So
was over 20.
27 transactions.
That's a lot of transactions. 27 transactions for 18 million. The average deal was 880,000. And like our largest deal, this was our largest deal to date, was from 2025, and it was the South Florida deal for just under 3 million. And that that was an awesome deal. By the end of that deal, like everyone was so excited about that, and it was a really great business, you know. And so now after that one, looking forward, like, dude, we want more of those. we want more of these like 2, 3, $5 million deals. So 2025 setting that record of like, oh, largest deal, and realizing it's possible and it's just the same amount of work.
Yeah, and just one interesting metric on there too. I mean, there's 27 deals that closed and 25 different buyers. So, I mean, we have a few in there that did 2 transactions within 1 year, but like you said, I mean, we have 500 plus buyers. Like we found deals and worked on transactions for 25 of them. 26 in my mind is going to be a year of, you know, tripling this number, 75 plus maybe 100 transactions of all sizes. But I think you're right. When you look at some of these metrics, like our average deal size, I think it ended up being what, just right under 900,000. I think 880 or so.
I think it was my first year joining you here doing acquisitions. I want to say there was like 60 transactions that year. But a lot of them were small, like, we still count it when people are like, "Hey, I'm going to go buy, a stack of 10 contracts from somebody." And so it's like we do. I think our smallest deal in 2025, what did we say? It was 40 doors for $66,000.
Yep, yep,
And
North Carolina. Yep, that's right.
yeah, and so it's like we buy such a wide range of these property management businesses, $66,000 to just under 3 million. And so it's like, and we're going bigger. But I think that first year, 60 transactions, I think the average purchase price that year was like $300,000. And each year, if we're looking at trends, I think my second year we were looking at like an average purchase price of 500, and now our average purchase price was 880, just under $900,000. It's like, is that a sign of the multiples going up, or are we just finding bigger businesses? And I think it's the latter. I think the multiples are still in the same 2.5 to 3, maybe 3.3 range.
Yeah, and I'm looking at some of the data now, and I'm looking at what happens in the next 3 months with our pipeline, and that average deal size is extending over 1 million at that point. And I'd say the majority of this space, a lot of it still is that sub 1.5. There's a lot of small mom and pop type shops, is what we've always kind of said. And that consolidation's been going on for a while. So I think we're now starting to see a few larger companies that are the result of a consolidation locally, right? And I think you can reference this too, but in some of our discussions with different sellers, we often ask like, "Hey, that's amazing growth. You've been doing this for the last, so many years. Like, have you done any acquisitions? Have you acquired any other PM companies?" And I think we're hearing a little bit more of, "Oh yeah, I bought someone out with 60 doors, 120 doors." Now we're stepping into a transaction with that's over 3 million that we won't drop a name on, but that I believe is the result of a couple local consolidations, a couple local acquisitions to build this larger company.
I think it was like 1 or 2 acquisitions that they've done, and, that got them to the 3, 4 million plus revenue range. And so I don't know. I don't know that we come across any businesses that grew to that size organically. I think it did stack a few of these smaller deals.
Yeah, on the residential side too, like I don't think I'm looking at just our historic transactions, and I don't see anyone over 700 doors that did not acquire a few companies. So I think there was definitely a rush with all those smaller local PM firms, right? Some of the brokers and agents that we're doing on the side. And I think now we're seeing a lot more. It's trending up as far as our activities are seeing. Like if we're doing 27 transactions that are doing 2 or 3 times as much revenue as the 60 deals we did in some of the previous years. Super interesting. I like looking back at the numbers because it gets me a little bit more excited about everything in the pipeline right now too, right? But yeah, let's talk about a little bit more. I'd say, for anyone that's listened to this podcast before, like we do buy businesses, we help people buy and sell businesses, but all across property management, right? Residential, commercial, associations, or HOAs, COAs, we do short-term rental. And the majority of our transactions in 2025, 90% of them were residential management businesses. And so, that's just kind of an interesting trend. It hasn't always been that way. In some of the previous years, we've done a lot more association management, but it's definitely residential focused for 2025.
I wonder why that is. It's got to be a numbers game. Like, I wonder if we looked into that. What's the ratio between residential management companies in the U.S. and HOA management companies? There's got to be a lot more residential management companies. But in my mind, I'm like, on average, what have we found? On average, the average lifespan of a property management owner is about 10 years before they're like, dude, I'm done. I need out, right? I gotta exit. I gotta do something else. I would imagine it would be like, would it be faster in HOA? Like, I don't know. I worked in property management with my wife, and she was in the HOA department. I was in the residential department, and she would tell me like the type of phone calls that they get in HOA, and I'm like, I wonder if the burnout happens faster in HOA.
Yeah, and I'm just thinking about some of the groups that we've kind of worked alongside too on the association side, and there's some absolutely monster companies out there, right? There's probably a top 5 list that really pull in a lot of the market, and so maybe it's just that numbers game where it's easier to operate a smaller residential company. Maybe that scale is more required for association. They have to be larger to really have that impact. But yeah, I'm just looking at these transactions, and it makes me think more about 2026 and where we lean in, right? Maybe it's, I'm looking at the stuff we have in the pipeline, and it's almost all residential, right? It's around 7 million in deals under contract right now for Q1, and almost all residential.
Yeah, I think one of them, I'm looking at it, one of them is HOA and the rest is all residential. We do have another HOA, 2 more HOA companies that we're negotiating on right now, but yeah, it's primarily residential. That's interesting. I haven't even stopped to think about that because we buy everything like property management, like great, we have a buyer for it. But I haven't stopped to think like, what's the breakdown? How many HOA versus short term versus residential or commercial? That's interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I think kind of the 2024 year, election year, it was kind of stagnant, right? There was a handful of transactions. It wasn't a record year. I think there was some insecurity there for buyers and sellers. And I think, 2025 came along, and, some of that confidence got built back up, and buyers and sellers started talking a lot more. And I think that's going to really lead into 2026 based on what I'm seeing. One interesting metric, though, too, that is worth discussing. We talk about how our buyers are always local, and we with 500 plus offices, the odds are that we have a buyer in your immediate market. If it's a major market, even some of the sub markets, we've got buyers there. But when I look at our transactions for 2025, the majority of them were in existing markets, and there was 4 transactions that happened that were new market entries for us. We helped a PMI franchisee, PMI business owner buy a business in a new market to them. And so that could have been a neighboring area, but a new PMI office was opened for 4 of those transactions. So it just goes to show, like, our buyers really are right down the street, right? We're already in your market. You don't need to teach them how to do property management. They're already property managers. It's just a really smooth local merge that gets to happen.
Yeah, and those the when it comes to someone's buying outside of their territory, outside of their market, it's a very calculated decision. That doesn't happen for anybody. It really has to be a good fit. So, yeah, 99% of the time it's no, we have someone a couple miles down the street. But in some cases it's like, no, they're intentionally expanding into this market. And so they're going to do that through acquisition and continue to grow and build in that market. So it's like, yeah, we've had one that he did that in 2 markets, and, he's done quite well. Those businesses have been thriving since the acquisitions.
Yeah, I was looking at that list too, and I was thinking of the 4 new locations. Each one of those buyers has worked with us on a deal previously. So that was not their first acquisition. You mentioned someone that opened up 2 new markets. I believe that was their 7th transaction with us. And so, a lot of our buyers are experienced buyers, not just experienced property managers. And that's kind of unique, right? I mean, I think there's a lot of people that are trying to get into property management through an acquisition to kind of build some credibility like immediately in the space. But, why not sell to, a buyer that's already in property management, that already knows the space, already understands the climate, and that's the majority of our transactions. A few smaller ones with newer operators, but yeah, I mean a lot of experienced buyers in that, 27 transaction list of 25.
I think sellers should take note of that, take if you're gonna sell your business, if you sell to someone that's already operating in that space, it's a much smoother transaction for both parties. The buyer, they already know how to do things. The seller, they don't have to worry as much of like how much handholding do I have to provide here? Because it's like they could just sell, get paid, and leave. They might be involved for a month, maybe two, tapered, but it's really just like handing off relationships, and it's like, "Oh, okay, you got it, you good, right?" Versus, if you're selling to someone who's like trying to buy and as an entry point into property management, it's a much longer transition. It's a lot more handholding because you want to make sure that your clients and your employees are taken care of. So it's like you really got to step in as a seller, and you're going to be sticking around for longer than you might have hoped if you were selling to someone who's already doing this.
Yeah,
That's kind of
totally.
interesting.
We get that question a lot, right? From sellers. Like maybe they've been offered something on their business before where, the buyer wants them to stay in for a year or longer to get some kind of payout. I don't think we've done a transaction where the seller has stayed on for more than maybe 2 months. That might be the extent of it. It's usually around, like that kind of 30 to 60-day window. But yeah, can you think of one that we've done longer than 2 months? I can't.
I mean, we usually put on there like, "Hey, we want a 3-month transition," but it's like, okay, for the first few weeks, it's gonna be kind of full time to help us transition over software and or whatever, right? But then it's like highly tapered. It gets quickly to the point where it's like, "We'll call you if we need you."
Yeah, yeah. I think a lot of times after week 3, it's kinda like, "Hey, can you just be available by phone and email for, within response hopefully within a response within 24 hours." It's usually, we plan for that 30, 60 day, but it's usually within the first 30 that, sellers can go on their way and, and get paid and, get on to their next thing. But, one question I get a lot too, and this even more recently, there was someone that was thinking about joining PMI and diving in and doing acquisitions right away. They were asking a lot about financing. And I think if we look back at 2025, you see kind of an interesting mix of SBA and some seller financing on some of the smaller deals too. But, how many deals this year funded through SBA, through an SBA backed loan?
Oh, man. Out of the 27, I'm how many can I one,
It's over
2,
10 for sure.
3, 4, 5. Dude, it was a lot. You know what? And I think that actually finding the right SBA lender to work with for us, you know, we came across Live Oak halfway through the year. And so it's like, imagine if we had come across them at the beginning of the year, because some of our deals had to push because they were working with their own bank. It wasn't Live Oak who was like ready to go. We just had a diligence call on a deal this morning that one should have closed a year ago, but it was supposed to close, in Q4, beginning of Q4, but their bank kept delaying and kept delaying and kept delaying until, in December, I finally said, enough. We're dropping that bank. We're introducing you to Live Oak. And Live Oak's been like, boom, boom. Yeah, let's move. We've got this under control. And, you know, that diligence call this morning, our franchisee was just like, oh my gosh, world of difference working with a finance partner, like a banking partner that knows how we do things, and they understand this model. So it's like that was a key thing in 2025 that has had a big impact and will continue to have a huge impact in us hitting, this $50 million goal for 26.
Yeah, I see over 10 of the 27 that did go through an SBA backed product. And I think we didn't start working with Live Oak until June. And I think we may have closed our first deal with them shortly after that. But yeah, that's a great point. I think that's absolutely going to influence 2026 transactions. And yeah, they've been great to work. We pitch them every time we get on a call. I mean, unsolicited, totally unsolicited. They did not sponsor this, but just great people to work with. They're waiting on us. We're rarely ever waiting on them, ever. But yeah, I mean, I think a lot of 2025 we can kind of contribute their efforts to that too. Like they absolutely helped us get past our goal and really close to our stretch goal. And yeah, I'm looking forward to working with them a lot more in 2026.
Like another shout out to Ben Hardy, who not how. Like we found that who. We were like, how are we gonna hit this 10x goal of 20 million? And we always ask like, hey, no, it's not how, who do we need to hit that? And when we found them, it was a game changer for us. It's like we know financing can happen. Like we've got the financing partners under control that they, hey, go talk to these guys and they'll figure out how to fund this for you, So it's like finding the right who has just been amazing. Thanks, Ben.
I mean, I just think about that not being the biggest problem within these deals, right? Like all the other valuation elements that we work through and the sourcing efforts too. Like we should, finding the money is not the most difficult part. There's so many creative ways to get these done, to get these deals done. And I'm looking at this list from 25 and I see a lot of seller financing in there too, right? I see some smaller transactions. There was a large transaction out in Arkansas that went primarily seller financing, less than 25% cash down. And, I look at good relationships between buyer and seller that really influence that piece to say, hey, they're willing to finance this. They trust our buyer. Seller's willing to carry a note. They'll take some payments. We even got the price, a little bit higher for some of those sellers that were willing to, finance. Hey, if we have to go to the bank, they're only going to fund up to here, but we're happy to get you to this number if you're willing to finance it. And a few people with good sized transactions did just that.
I'm thinking about it. I'm like, I don't think we had any seller financed deals with a party that didn't already know each other. They always knew each other previously. Am I right? It's like they had a relationship over a period of time, so that trust was there.
Yeah, and I'd say some of those weren't necessarily long relationships. Maybe they'd been talking together, for a few months or more, but it wasn't just a come together and close. Like there was definitely like a kind of a cultural alignment too, right? Like, hey, I like how this buyer operates. He's going to work really well with my client base, with my employees. And when there's that kind of synergy there, I think the seller financing piece it's not the hurdle. The hurdle is like, hey, is this buyer going to be a good fit for the business? I'm happy to find a way that works for everyone here. But yeah, there's only a couple deals in here that went seller financing without, a pre-existing relationship. Now that I look at them, there was definitely some kind of nurturing, and that's kind of a good position for a seller to be in too, right? Like they weren't rushed to sell. We weren't rushing them through. Buyer and seller agreed on, just the structure of the deal, how to keep team in place, how to make sure clients stay happy. And the seller financing kind of just came out of that, right?
2025 was a good year. 2026 is going to be a great year.
I think we got to keep putting it out there. I think 2026, we hit 50 million in property management business transactions. I mean, that's why we're here. That's what we focus on. And yeah, I mean, I want to make sure that people understand, like, hey, if they're thinking about selling, they should talk with us and at least understand the process. See if we have a good fit. See if we've got a good local buyer that we could introduce you to. We're not brokers in this. We don't charge a fee. This is just something we provide to our franchise network, to PMI. And
Out of the goodness of our hearts.
exactly. I mean, this is fun for us. And I think we're in such a unique position. Like, the franchisor in this model is, you know, property management, PMI, they are putting resources together, you and I, so that business owners can go acquire other local businesses, grow through acquisitions. It's a unique play. And, I think we work with a lot of great people. So super grateful for 2025.
Even more grateful for 2026. I mean, think about that. Like
50 million or nothing.
we just paid $18 million to people this last year. Like 27 people split $18 million. That's wild. That's awesome. Like that's, you know, an average of $880,000 per person. That can make a big impact. You could pay off your house with that and buy your next house or something, like depending on where you're at. I mean, some markets that might pay for an apartment. I don't know. But like $18 million got paid out to people last year. And this year, we're going to pay out $50 million. Like people are going to split $50 million, a small group of people. And what's wild is there's 326,000 property management companies in America. And it's like we're only capturing the smallest little sliver by paying out $50 million to people. Like it's absolutely wild. Like what's stopping us from paying out 100 million, doing 100 million in acquisitions? Like that's going to change so many lives.
Yep. I think, and maybe you can comment on this too, but a lot of these sellers, historically were retiring. And I think more than ever now that our deal sizes have been increasing, like we're talking with sellers that are moving on to something else. Like they're sometimes serial entrepreneurs. Sometimes they're getting into other ventures. It's not like this is a final career move for them. It's like, hey, they're going to sell their business. We're going to pay them X and they're going to go push this into something else. They have another passion project or other investment opportunity awaiting them. But have you seen that trend a little bit too? I'm just kind of noticing that now.
That idea came up the last few months that we've been talking about this of like, oh, it's not just that we're giving people $50 million, but like what are they going to do with that? And yeah, it's like sometimes we come across people, I feel like it's actually getting less that it's like, hey, yeah, we're looking to retire. We're talking to people in their 40s. You're not retiring from selling your $1 or $2 million business. Like that's not going to carry you till you're 85, you know? But it's like this idea of, well, what are you going to do next? And we always make sure that someone's got their next thing, right? Anytime that we're looking to buy a company from someone, that's always one of the first questions. My first phone call with them is like, okay, if you sell, what are you doing? What are you going to do with that? Because it's like this opportunity of, if you sold your business for $1 million, let's say, hey, let's pay off the house with that and then take the rest and go buy another business. You take 500,000 of that to go buy a business that's like 5 times the size
Yeah.
of the business you just sold. And it's going to cash flow you more than the gross revenue of the business that you just sold. Like we're creating that kind of opportunity for people. Like you built this business to this point, and now you sell it to this guy and you can go buy something way bigger, and it's like you already learned the mechanics of how to operate a business. Now go do it on a bigger scale. Like providing that opportunity is just unbelievably awesome in my mind.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, I am thinking about that deal we had a due diligence call on today where there's two younger business partners. Like they've got a lot of life left in whatever new venture they get into. And it's kind of exciting, right? It's not like they're forced to sell. They've got a great business, but they've got some opportunity somewhere else that they want to chase. And we're happy to help, get them there too. So, yeah, I think we will start seeing that. And I'm noticing that with a lot of these larger deals. Some of the smaller mom and pops that we were working on even a few years ago, it was a lot of retirement. And now it's, hey, there's some bigger operations that maybe have, you know, semi absentee ownership on, and they are entrepreneurs and they are still chasing the next deal. And that might be in an aligning industry. It might be something totally different, but I think their perspective when it comes to being a seller that's not just cashing out and done, like they're saying, hey, where's this money going to go? And what gets them excited about kind of their next challenge or next business too. So
I just love the idea of like, you know what? Sell your property management company for $2 million and then take that and go buy a roofing company for 15 million. Right? Like a business is a business. A widget is a widget, right? It's like you already know you built this one business. Yes, it's in a specific industry. You really know that industry, but the mechanics of how to operate a business, go buy another service business, right? Like it's once you get to that point, it's less about like, hey, I'm a property manager. It's more of I'm a business owner, and it's like I'm really good at bringing on team members and operations, like setting up systems and making sure that people are efficient and setting up KPIs and all these things to make sure that your business is going in the right direction. It's like go do that in another business. Like you already know the mechanics. You don't need to be the expert at how to hang shingles. You need to be the expert on how to build this operation that happens to service customers by hanging shingles, right?
no, you're totally right. I think that kind of that removal of the seller from the operation, like they're more working on the business versus in the business, right? We talk about that a lot. And I think we're seeing just how the industry has progressed, right? Like property management's come a long way in the last 10, 15 years. And you're bringing a lot more tech to the space. It's there. Younger people are quick, sometimes quicker to adopt it. And there's some really, I'd say sophisticated business owners in our space that, this is a stepping stone for them. They might be onto a new project and why not, get them their payday, right? Hey, they built a great business. They deserve it and good for them for building something that's that's worth selling, right?